That's Mexico. Mexico City, viva Mexico. Arriba, and the burners. Burn, 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 burn. And Thai. Sawadee. Sawadee. Okay, come a little bit closer, because I'm going to explain what you're looking at, and we only have time to do it once. Sorry.
Sit up here.
Can you all hear me? Okay. Starting in that direction, if you can see which way I'm pointing. The white houses, with the buildings sticking up on the ridge, on the furthest ridge of the hill. Can you see them? Okay, that's the outskirts of Nazareth. That's Upper Nazareth. The city of Nazareth is on the other side of the hill. Okay, you just go over that hill, down into the valley, and you're in Nazareth. And then, of course, Nazareth is on the way to the Sea of Galilee. So you're looking east in this direction, east towards Galilee, the Jordan River, and the nation of Jordan. Okay? Now, if we keep going to the right from those houses, you're going to see a symmetrical little hill in the background. That hill is called Mount Tabor. And it is the mountain, according to the Bible, of Deborah and Barak, and their battle in the book of Judges against the Midianites. They assembled the armies of Israel. They swept down from the heights of Tabor and struck the Midianites, and they chased them all the way across the Galilee, and they ended the battle here, below us, near the torrents of the Kishon. Okay, so the little Kishon River is just below us here, to my right. Okay, if you keep going further to the right, there's another hill with a town built on its slopes. Can you see that hill? Okay, that hill is called the Hill of the Teacher, Har Megiddo, and that little town is called, it's the modern town of Akula. What is on this side of that hill is where an ancient community called Shunem was located, and that's of course where the Shunammite widow lived, the son that the Jewish prophet Elijah raised from the dead. Do you remember? He went to the Shunammite widow, and when her son died, he raised the son from the dead. What's interesting is right on the other side of that hill, there is even to this day a little town called Nain, N-A-I-N, and that's where Jesus, some centuries after Elijah, raised another widow's son from the dead. Okay, Jesus was walking through that neighborhood, and he came upon a funeral procession. It was a widow, and her only son had died, and he stopped the procession and raised the boy from the dead. So, for sure, when Jesus did that miracle, everyone knew that Elijah, the great prophet, had performed a similar miracle just on the other side of the hill. Okay, because he did it in the vicinity of Shunem. All right, now, if you keep going right, there's another range of hills this direction. Okay, that range of hills is called Gilboa. That's where King Saul, and his son Jonathan died fighting the Philistines. Okay, this was it's a biblical battlefield. Right at the foot of Gilboa is also the spring of Gideon. Not this Gideon, the Gideon of the Bible, where, according to tradition, that's the place where the army of Israel went to get water, and he chose the 300 based on the way they drank from that spring. So the spring of Gideon is out there, and just on this side of that hill is the ruins of an ancient town called Jezreel. Jezreel, you know from the book of Kings, it was the headquarters of King Ahab, the most wicked king of northern Israel, and his wife Jezebel. Okay, and it's where Jehu came and commanded the eunuchs to throw Jezebel out the window of the palace. Okay, and you can go out and see the ruins of Jezreel. It has not been excavated. It's just ancient stones lying on a small hillside today. Maybe one day someone will raise the funds, some university, and they'll do an excavation project and restore ancient Jezreel. Now, according to the book of Revelation, this entire valley, which otherwise is known as the Jezreel Valley, according to the book of Revelation, this valley is known as the Valley of Armageddon. And Armageddon in the English is the corruption of two Greek words, which themselves are the corruption of two Hebrew words. Okay, the Hebrew words are Har Megiddo. Har Megiddo, which means the mountain of Megiddo, or the Mount of Megiddo, and it's named after the town that was situated in this valley, the town of Megiddo. Now, Megiddo has been excavated. It's a very, very interesting place to go if you have any interest in biblical archaeology. It has been built and rebuilt and destroyed over 25 times, and they believe that Megiddo was at least 6,000 years old. So, in other words, the Canaanites had been living in Megiddo 2,000 years before the people of Israel even came into the land. So it's a very, very old city, and what's important about Megiddo is that it's the city that controlled the road that went through this valley. And this valley was important in the ancient world because of the road that went through this valley. It was the most important trade route in the ancient world because it linked the great empire of Egypt with the great empire of Assyria. So all the trade that went between Egypt and Assyria at some point passed through this valley on this road. And the road is right below where the modern highway is today built. Okay, so that's where our modern highway is. The Romans named that road the Via Maris, or the Way of the Sea. But even centuries before the Romans, it was the most important trade route in this region. And so whoever controlled Megiddo controlled the road and controlled the trade in this valley. And so it was a strategic town for millennia. That's why it was destroyed and rebuilt at least 25 times. The Assyrians fought here. The Babylonians fought here. The Egyptian pharaohs fought here. The kings and the judges of Israel fought here. All the Canaanites fought here. The Arameans fought here. Even Napoleon came and fought here. And in the First World War, there was a British general named Allenby who defeated the Turks in this valley, who then, Allenby went back to London where he was knighted and he was awarded a special title. He was known after that as the Lord of Armageddon. And he was the first Christian ruler since the Crusaders to conquer this land. So the first Christian ruler in 1,000 years to basically rule here in this part of the world. Okay, so you're looking at an extremely strategic valley. The king who fortified Megiddo, the Israelite king, was Solomon. His father David conquered Megiddo. It says in the book of Chronicles that King Solomon fortified Megiddo. He fortified Hatzor, which is another strategic town further north on this same highway, and he fortified Gezer, which is another strategic town on the same highway near what is today the airport. And it says in the book of Chronicles that Solomon placed his chariots at Megiddo. So today that would be like saying you put your armored corps there. So Solomon clearly understood the importance of this road. He clearly understood the importance of Megiddo. You can still go to Megiddo and see the remains of Solomon's stables in that town. You can also walk through a water tunnel that was dug by King Ahab in his day. And because Solomon controlled Megiddo and this road, perhaps that's the major key to the incredible wealth and success, material success of his kingdom. So this is the strategic valley of the last battle. Megiddo itself, if you look at the dark green trees coming down like a finger into the valley, right there, at the furthest point, just beyond those trees, is the Tell of Megiddo. Okay, so that's where the town was that controlled this valley. One other interesting point is right below us here, where I'm pointing now. You'll see another mound with nothing growing on it. It looks like a loaf of bread. That mound is ancient Yoknian. Okay, Yoknian is mentioned once in the Bible, not a very important, probably a daughter city of Megiddo. Probably the same king of, maybe the king of Megiddo ruled over the king of Yoknian. Okay, maybe it was a satellite city. But that's an example of an ancient tell, which is a mound with a city inside of it that has not been excavated because it costs so much money and there's so many tells around that they have to be very selective on the ones that they invest in excavating. So that's ancient Yokneam. Next to it is modern Yokneam. Modern Yokneam, interestingly, is a place where the Israeli government has encouraged the formation of high technology startup companies. So in Yokneam there must be 200 to 500 venture capital startup companies making all kinds of microprocessors, wireless communication, state-of-the-art medical devices, biotechnology. All of that's going on in Yokneam. And all of these new houses from here down that road are for the engineers and the people who work in those companies. So here you have an example of the very new and the very old in Israel side by side. Now, it is understood that this part of Carmel is probably where the confrontation between Elijah and the false prophets took place. This, where we're standing now, is now a Catholic monastery because the Carmelite order came here centuries ago and claimed this land. And so it's been there, it's been in the hands of Catholics from before the formation of the state. But probably in ancient times, this was a high place where Baal was worshipped. And so they would have chosen a high place where Baal was worshipped for that biblical confrontation. And they would have built the two altars probably right around here. Also, at this end of the Carmel Range, there are springs. And you can find water underground here. And that would explain where they got the water to pour on Elijah's altar. You may remember from the 1 Kings 18 account, after he built the altar and cut up the sacrifice, they poured water on it all over the altar 3 times. Now they wouldn't have carried that water on their backs all the way up to the top of the altar. They must have had the water there. So the springs are here. Also, after the confrontation and the fire comes from heaven to consume the sacrifice on the altar, the prophet Elijah sends his servant to look for the cloud of rain that's coming, because this was all what it was all about, was which God not only was going to send the fire, but which God was going to send the rain. And so if you remember from the Bible, he sends his servant back 7 times, and on the 7th time he sees a small cloud coming up over the sea, the size of a man's hand. And so from here, if you look in that direction, you can see the Mediterranean Ocean. And if your eyes are good, in that little gap between the 2 ranges of hills, you can actually see the beach and the white line of the surf hitting the beach. Okay, so from here, you have all those important aspects of the story. You have the high place, you have the springs of water, you have the Kishon River down to my right, where they executed the false prophets, and then you have a view of the ocean where the servant went and for the 7 times until he saw the cloud of rain coming. And then Elijah sent Ahab back by chariot. Okay, so Ahab went from here by chariot. Who knows where the road was in that day, but maybe he went all the way back to Haifa. Okay, and then out to his capital in Jezreel. But according to the Bible, Elijah outran him. Jezreel is a marathon. It's literally 26 miles from here to the city of Jezreel. But Elijah probably just went right down the hill, out into the valley, and he arrived at Jezreel first. Time for the rain to arrive. So we've brought you to a real, not only historic, but a genuinely biblical place. This is really a prayer mountain.